Hey guys, how are you all doing? It's Footyman over here, and today we are doing round number 11 of AJ Predicts. It's been a big week of rugby league, of course. Billy Cameron Smith announcing his retirement from the State of Origin scene, effective immediately. Boy oh boy, what a big story that was. Anyway, moving into the week's games, the Panthers taking on the Tigers. Boy oh boy, they continue to be a surprise. They dropped Mahe Fanua this week for arriving late to training. Bit of a club stance by Ivan Cleary, I have to applaud him for that. But the Panthers, they've been going from strength to strength and getting Nathan Cleary back from injury. I just see the Panthers being too strong in this game. I mean, the Tigers, they've surprised us all before, but I just don't see them to win this game, unfortunately. Moving on, we've got Parramatta taking on the Warriors. What the hell is going on at that club? Every time I tip the Eels, they lose. However, the Warriors, they're without injured stars again, and they need to win this one. And I'm going to tip in the bounce back after the 32-point shellacking at the hands of the Roosters. And just show more of that class that the Parramatta Eels haven't produced over the last couple of weeks. Moving on now, we've got the Broncos taking on the Roosters. The Broncos, they're inside out. You don't know what you're going to get from them on a week-to-week basis, and they're hard to pick on a form line, while the Roosters, they've been good over the last few weeks. Even though Jared Sutton is the Broncos ref this weekend, they're going to lose their 16th. They're going to not continue their 15-game winning streak they've got under Jerry Sutton, and they're going to win. The Roosters go 3 in a row. Moving on, we've got the Gold Coast Titans taking on the Knights. And now my driving question, what is going on at the Gold Coast Titans? They've dropped Bryce Cartwright before form, but there was a tackle where he could have wrapped up Cameron Munster. He just sat there and turned into a turnstile. Absolutely not good enough. I'll touch on the same point with the Cowboys as well, but I just don't see improvement. While Newcastle, they were unlucky last week. I reckon they've got to get rid of Connor Watson for some consistency, because he bombed at least 2 tries last week due to stupidity. But Newcastle are a hard team to beat, and I'm going to tip them in this game. Moving on, we've got North Queensland taking on South Sydney. As I was touching on with turnstiles earlier, Jonathan Thurston is soon turning one for the defence. Yes, he's putting bodies in front, but how many missed tackles has he had this season? It's at a record high for Jonathan Thurston. He himself, I'm guaranteed, is not happy about it. Meanwhile, for South Sydney, they beat the Dragons. Only 2 teams have done that this season, and they're high up on the ladder. Souths are a hard team to beat, and they proved it on Sunday. My tip for this game is the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Moving on, we've got Melbourne taking on Manly. It used to be a grudge match, but now it's turning into a shitfest. Manly bounced back with a good victory over the Broncos. They needed that victory after 4 straight defeats. But I just think Melbourne have got too much class to them. Addo Carr, again, will be continuing to press for his State of Origin spot, which I'm pretty sure is already his after absolutely kicking ass in Wollongong a couple of weeks ago in his 100-metre burst against the Titans. Melbourne should win this game, and if they don't, there'll be some sore heads around Brookie. And I disagree with the selection of Trent Hodkinson off the interchange bench. He's more suited to a starting 5'8" role, so then he can push Dylan Walker out into the centres, and unfortunately, that makes way for Moses Suli. But they've only got Suli, I think, for a 3-game contract due to complications with the Jersey Flegg 3rd-tier contracts. Moving on now, we've got the St George Illawarra Dragons taking on the Canberra Raiders as the NRL's road trip around the bush continues. We're going to the Glen Willow Regional Sports Centre in Mudgee. The Dragons, hard to pick against them this season, but I just think they've showed too much to the Raiders. Blake Austin battling to pass a fitness test on his ankle. Boy oh boy, they'll be a good team to crack if the Raiders do get up, but I see that as a very unlikely possibility due to the Dragons' form, and they always bounce back big after a loss. Remember Anzac Day? They had a big loss against the Warriors the week before, and they came back and absolutely gave the Roosters the cleaners. Moving on now to the last match of the week, Cronulla taking on the Bulldogs. I had the guts to pick Cronulla last week. Big performance they put in too to beat a side like the Raiders with a lot of injuries. The Sharks have had heaps and heaps of injuries. The Bulldogs, they got back to consistency with a good win on Friday night against Parramatta, but I don't see it repeating themselves. They do good for 1 week against a good side, and then they play poorly against a weaker side the next. I see that new Cronulla will just do enough, in my opinion, to win. So my tips for this week, we've got the Panthers to defeat the Tigers, Warriors to defeat the Eels, Roosters to defeat the Broncos, Knights to defeat the Titans, Rabbits to beat the Cowboys, Melbourne to beat Manly, Dragons to defeat the Raiders, as well as the Sharks to beat the Bulldogs. Any inquiries that you want to put in about my tips, leave them in the comments down below. I know I'll probably get the one comment saying, oh, pick Tigers, or pick this team, or pick that team. I'm only picking with my gut feeling on that one. So anyway, that will conclude AJ Predicts for this week. Take care, goodbye, and I'll see you next week, same time, for the next edition of AJ Predicts.